We're going to be talking about Augustine today, but we want to put him in historical context. John, the only apostle who died of old age, died in AD 90. And so you can imagine there's a need to develop Christian theology, to understand, to flesh out what it is Christians should believe. What is the truth of Christianity? And so a man arose named Tertullian. He lived between 155 and 220. He was born and raised in Carthage, Tunisia, but he was a Roman citizen, so he wrote his theologies in Latin. And so he's considered the founder of Latin Christianity, or the founder of Western Christianity. He gave us a term that is not in your Bible. I dare you to go find it in your Bible. The word Trinity. He gave us a Latin word for the Godhead, Trinity. So he's amazing. Now, 200 years later, now he was called the Bishop of Carthage. 200 years later, Augustine would become the Bishop of Carthage. He lived between 354 and 430. He was born in Tagaste, Algeria, and died in Carthage, Tunisia. The two men shared something in common. They were both North Africans, and in fact, they belonged to the same tribe. They were Amazigh. And so that's important because it goes to the fact that they shared a culture. So your culture, even though you may speak a certain language, you still have a culture. So even though someone may speak English and write in English, it does not take away from their original culture, which may be Swedish or German or Japanese or whatever. And so that's what we're dealing with there. But Augustine laid the foundation for the development of Western philosophy and Western Christianity. Today, in Bible colleges and seminaries, his epistemology is taught. All truth is God's truth. That we get from Augustine. Additionally, he gave Calvin his theology. Calvin studied Augustinian theology and developed the Institutes of Christian Religion. And so in developing that, and Calvin lived between 1509 and 1564. So if you're a Calvinist, 4 points, 5 points, or whatever, you are an Augustinian. You get your theology from Augustine. Augustine gave us some educational methods and philosophies. Student readiness to learn. Understanding that we need a pleasant, conducive learning environment. You need to communicate your expectations clearly. Student interest and motivation is important. Reciprocity between students and the teacher. Differentiated education and contemplation and reflection by the teacher is all important. We get all of that from Augustine and more. He wrote a lot about teachers, how to teach, and he had a philosophy. But he had an educational detractor, and that is Catherine Beecher, who lived between 1800 and 1878. Catherine Beecher, reflecting on Augustine, really writing about Augustine, she said this: reasonable people have a duty to resist the African enslavement of Anglo-Saxon minds, no less than to combat the Anglo-Saxon enslavement of African bodies. Now, why did she say this? She's reflecting on, she felt that the theology, the North African theology, the theology of Augustine and the other North African church fathers that wrote Western Christian theology, that it was deleterious to women. She was a proponent of the common schools and a proponent of women teachers, and she kept having it thrown in her face, this theology that is that likely is reflective of North African culture and North African sensibilities with respect to women. And so this is what she's picking up on. And so she may very well have been right that that we needed to break away and treat women equally.